everyone, my name is Emily and I'm the founder of the Forest Fleur, a research organization dedicated to increasing public understanding of the Sasquatch species in order to inspire habitat preservation. Over the past 2 years, I've been working on a massive mapping project. By vetting each report using location and witness credibility, I've been able to assemble a pretty robust map of Sasquatch sightings in the United States. Many of these reports have been shared with me by witnesses who haven't published this information online. By anonymizing these stories and leaving out precise location details, I'm able to share them with you today. Between 1999 and 2002, a family living in Chemung County, New York, began experiencing a series of strange encounters near their wooded property. The first incident occurred around 1999 on a sunny afternoon at 3 p.m. Two of the family's children came running into the house, completely terrified. They claimed they'd seen what looked like an ape squatting in the creek, apparently going to the bathroom. The creature turned to look at them, stood up on two legs, and ran up the hill. The children described it as having a pointed head, long hair, and a distinctly human-like posture. About a week later, two of the other children had their own encounter while walking home along the road. They reported running into a hairy animal walking upright, but this one was a different color and smelled like garbage. While one pair of children described a creature with reddish-brown fur similar to an orangutan, the other set of children described a dark brown or black Sasquatch. None of the children had access to TV or Bigfoot media. They were homeschooled and well acquainted with the appearance of local wildlife. When their mother heard of the accounts, she separated the children and asked each of them to draw what they saw. All four of the sketches showed the same thing: an ape-like creature standing erect with long arms, short legs, a flat nose, and a necklace, conical head. A few years later, in 2002, the family's 14-year-old foster child had a sighting while riding home with her grandmother. They thought at first it was a bear crossing in front of them, but the little girl later insisted that the creature walked on two legs, swung its arms, and turned its entire body to look back at them. It had come up from a wooded creek and was moving toward the family's property. Over the years, other strange incidents had been reported by the children in the household. One boy said he'd often seen a large man crossing the road near the same creek while waiting for the bus. In 2001, one of the children's friends reported seeing a massive silhouette run across the driveway and up the hill at night while sitting in a parked vehicle. Although snow erased any tracks by morning, the witness remained adamant about what he'd seen. The homeowners later reflected that the spike in activity might have been tied to logging in the area, which had pushed wildlife, including possibly Sasquatch, closer to their property. The land was thickly forested with a ravine, abundant water, and regular food offerings for wildlife. Over 2 decades, she'd seen bears, deer, and perhaps something else entirely move through the property she once called home. In September of 2008, a man joined an older local outdoorsman on what was supposed to be a simple snipe hunting trip in upstate New York, not far from Whitehall. The plan was to explore the marshes, learn the terrain, and maybe flush out a few birds. But before they ventured too far, the old-timer offered a stern warning. "Never go into that one marsh alone. Ever," he said. "And if you do, carry a gun big enough to stop a bear." At first, the young man thought it was a joke, meant to spook the newcomer. But the older man's tone didn't waver. He explained that there were wild men in those swamps. people who had lived there for generations, inbred and feral, surviving off whatever they could find. According to him, they were dangerous. Still skeptical, the man figured the old-timer was just eccentric. But then came an offer. "You want to see one? I'll show you." They paddled their small boat through the marsh, the grass rising chest high even to the younger man, who stood 6 feet tall. When they reached the edge of a field, the old man cupped his hands and let out a strange echoing call. Woo! The sound made the younger man's hair stand on end. Moments later, something stood up in the tall grass. The creature towered above the vegetation, its belly roughly where his own chest would be, making it at least 7 to 8 feet tall. It was massive, broad-shouldered, and wider than any football player he'd ever seen. He flicked on his flashlight, and that was a mistake. The creature screamed and charged toward them, sending a shock through both men. "What did you do that for?" the old-timer shouted. "You idiot! I didn't tell you to use a light!" The old man began paddling furiously, pushing the boat into the current of the nearby river until they were safely adrift. Only then did he stop, fuming and out of breath. He explained that the wild people, or whatever they were, often tried to provoke fights. They knew what guns were, he said, and would attempt to lure hunters into using them. He compared it to a tactic from his time in Vietnam, a distraction from the front while others flanked from behind. According to him, the beings weren't always in the area. They moved with the seasons, appearing in the marshes and on Black Mountain, but disappearing for months at a time. He claimed they were barefoot year-round, even in the winter, and often more aggressive during the cold weather. "If you ever want to piss your pants," the old man said, "go to the marsh at night when the frogs are calling. Warm nights are bad, but foggy ones are worse." He described seeing them throw rocks, stalk hunters through the fog, and move silently through the cattails. He believed they were not starving, but dangerous territorial predators that had learned how to hunt. In October 2019, a man driving through the small riverside town of Lowell, Idaho, had an encounter he still can't explain. Lowell is a little more than a quick stop along the river. A gas station on the west end, a small cafe in the middle, and a motel on the east end with a row of rooms stretching parallel to the road. It was along this quiet stretch, about 40 yards past the motel, that the driver caught a flash of movement in the corner of his left eye, the side facing the river. In his headlights, he saw what appeared to be the hindquarters of a large, upright figure, running at full speed across the road. The motion was unmistakably bipedal. Its right leg extended back in a stride that reminded him of a sprinter crossing a finish line. Instinctively, he turned his head fully left, hoping to catch another glimpse. In the dim light, he could just make out the silhouette of a massive, dark shape and the faint outline of a muscular upper leg as the figure disappeared down the riverbank, vanishing into the blackness below. Had he arrived only 5 seconds sooner, he realized, he might have caught the creature in the middle of the road. For several minutes, he sat in his stunned silence, trying to make sense of what he had seen. An elk? A bear? Neither explanation fit. The stride, the shape, the sheer speed, none of it made sense. Slowly, he found himself considering the only possibility left. Bigfoot? Sasquatch? The thought lingered. He tried to dismiss it and continue driving, but the image of that shadowed figure running upright along the river never left his mind. In October of of 1990, a hunter in the Grayling, Michigan area had an experience in the woods that he's never been able to forget. He was perched quietly in a tree stand, deer hunting, when he noticed movement less than 20 yards away. What he saw wasn't a deer. It was something standing upright, about 5 feet tall, covered in hair, that appeared greenish-gray to black in color. For over 15 minutes, he watched the creature. It seemed young, perhaps a juvenile, and it showed no fear of his presence. At times, it even appeared to peek at him from behind a tree, as if playing a strange game of hide and seek. The hunter recalled a distinct odor surrounding the area. It wasn't particularly foul, but it was unlike anything he'd ever smelled in the Michigan woods. Something earthy and unfamiliar. Right then, their eyes met. The creature seemed curious, not aggressive. Moments later, an unfamiliar sound. Something the hunter couldn't describe or compare to any known animal, echoed through the forest. In response, the creature turned calmly and walked away on 2 legs, disappearing into the trees. The witness, an experienced outdoorsman, later said he knows every species native to Michigan's forests, and this was not one of them. There's just not enough time here to explain everything I saw and heard, he said. But I know what I saw, and it wasn't any animal known to man. In the summer of 1979, a man, his dog, and his girlfriend set out to prospect for minerals in the Ossipee mountain range of Wolfboro, New Hampshire. Their goal was to reach the ledges of Bald Mountain, a rugged, rocky peak south of Mount Whittier that overlooks Connor Pond below. They parked along Gilman Valley Road, past the Tamworth-Ossipee town line, and began their bushwhack up the mountain. The trio was searching for contact zones, areas where 2 rock types meet and sometimes reveal crystals. As they climbed, the trees began to thin and the legends opened up to a sweeping view of the valley below. That's when they saw it. Roughly 100 yards ahead on the open rock stood a small stone structure, primitive yet deliberate. The stones were large and roughly stacked. Inside the structure stood a massive man-like figure facing away from them. It was roughly 7 feet tall, its entire body covered in matted gray hair about 3 inches long. In that same instant, the dog began to growl. The creature responded with a deep, guttural noise, unlike anything the 2 had ever heard. "I can't even describe the sound," the man later said. "It wasn't human and it wasn't animal. It just shook us." The man's girlfriend panicked and a wave of dread hit them all. Without a word, the group turned and fled down the mountain, retracing their steps as fast as they could through the thick brush. In the days that followed, they told friends about what they had seen: a stone shelter and a giant gray-haired creature standing within it. It took the couple almost a year to build up the courage to return to the ledges. When they finally did, the place looked just as they had remembered, except for one crucial detail. The stone structure they had seen before was gone. They scoured the area carefully, combing every ledge, searching for even the slightest indentation or scatter of stone that could have marked its foundation. But there was nothing, no trace of where those heavy boulders had been stacked, or how something so large could have vanished without a sign. Whatever had built it, whatever had stood inside, was gone without a trace. In 1970 in Topsfield, Maine, a quiet rural town surrounded by thick forest and winding rivers, one family's ordinary trip to the dump turned into an encounter they'll never forget. It began when a local woman drove up to the town dump, preparing to back her truck in. Ahead of her, she saw what she assumed were 3 bears rummaging through the garbage. 2 large ones and a smaller one standing off to the side. Encounters with bears weren't unusual in the area, so at first she wasn't alarmed. Still, she decided to wait in her truck until they left. She honked the horn and revved the engine, expecting them to scatter, but instead, both of the large animals stood upright and turned to face her. That's when she realized they weren't bears at all. The 2 large figures stood on 2 legs, fully erect, covered in dark brown hair. The smaller one rushed to the side of what appeared to be the female, who scooped him into her arms. The witness could see the light-colored palms and soles of the small one's hands and feet. The larger male, towering over 6 feet tall, took a step forward and bared his teeth. Large, human-like, but enormous and yellowed. The female, slightly shorter, around 6 feet tall, had pendulous breasts that swung as she ran, clutching the juvenile on her hip. The male stood his ground, roaring and punching his chest before finally turning and disappearing into the tree line. The woman, terrified, sped home white as a sheet. She burst through the door, headed straight for the gun cabinet, and pulled out a 12-gauge shotgun. Her husband, startled, tried to calm her down, but she insisted he come back with her to the dump. She was determined to show him the wild monkeys that had frightened her. When they arrived, the area was silent. No movement, no animals. But the husband found something else instead. Tracks, hundreds of them. The muddy ground around the dump was covered in barefoot impressions, some large, some small. Each showed 5 distinct toes, like a human's, but much broader and heavier. They weren't bear tracks, the man said. I've tracked and shot plenty of bears in my day. These were something else entirely. He followed the prints across the dump and into the woods, where they eventually vanished into the thick brush near the river. Whatever had been there was gone, but the memory of that night and the fear it brought to his wife never left their minds. I hope you've enjoyed these stories that I've shared with you today. Something I want to point out is that through my research, I've come to find that most Sasquatch sightings are actually road crossings. If you're looking to see a Sasquatch and collect some proof, my suggestion would be to invest in a dash camera. If you're interested in learning more about the science and stories behind Sasquatch, head over to my website and social media. Thanks for watching!